Hello, everybody. This is Vince Russo, and welcome to the brand and welcome to today's show. We have a special guest. I want to thank Larry Francis, the talent coordinator. I'm supposed to do that every time now he gets me a guest. Larry Francis, the talent coordinator, thank you for getting me a guest because I'm excited about today's guest because you don't hear from him much. I worked with him. This was one of the guys. This was a guy. I consider this guy like a guy a lot like Matt Morgan. And as a matter of fact, there were a lot of guys like this in WCW that I would have deemed blue chippers and can't miss. And that's coming from my point of view and my expertise in the wrestling business. The guy I'm going to interview today, and I'm going to get to him in a minute, he was one of these blue chippers. He was one of these can't miss. But like a lot of people, he got put into that machine, and the next thing you know, the machine is spitting him out, which I think is prematurely. But in this case, it was a good thing because this individual went on to bigger and better things, and that's what we're going to talk about today. I always tell you that, bro. If you're a professional wrestler and you're intelligent, you got a head start over everybody else because, number one, if you're intelligent and you're smart, you're not going to be a puppet. You're not going to be anybody's puppet. And not only that, you're not afraid to leave because you know if you depend on yourself and your strengths, that you will be successful. And that's why I always thought when wrestlers are intelligent, they can go far in or out of the business. My guest today falls on that category. I'm going to get to that in a minute. I'm going to address a tweet I got a couple of minutes ago that pisses me off, and I'm going to go into a mini rant before I bring my guest on. But before I even do that, let me tell you about TrueCar. When you're looking to buy a car, you want to make sure that you're getting real pricing on actual inventory. Unfortunately, a lot of times this isn't the case. People configure cars online only later to find out they're not available, the old bait and switch. With TrueCar, you can get real pricing on actual inventory. This is not pricing offered by TrueCar, but pricing from an actual dealer and not just any dealer, but a TrueCar certified dealer. This is a carefully curated network of dealers committed to transparency and offering you a competitive market price. Using TrueCar, you can easily find the car you want. TrueCar will show you what other people in your area paid for the same car you're looking for, so now you'll feel confident in that fair price. Over 3 million cars have been sold to TrueCar users by the TrueCar Certified Dealer Network. There are over 13,000 TrueCar Certified Dealers nationwide, and you will work directly with the TrueCar Certified Dealer. And also, it will be a faster buying experience if you go with a TrueCar professional, and that professional will save you over $3,000 off the MSRP. So when you're ready to buy, visit TrueCar to enjoy a more confident car buying experience. Some features are not available in all states. That's TrueCar.com. Okay, when I first got on Twitter, I can't tell you, I blocked tens of thousands of people. If anybody said anything derogatory to me, if anybody was rude to me or insulting or disrespectful, I just blocked them. When the first of the year rolled around this time, I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to be a little more lenient with people. I'm not going to block people unless they really piss me off. And as a matter of fact, I went on Twitter and I unblocked a lot of people. I unblocked like thousands of people, and there hasn't been any issues. But there's this one guy, Jeffy Joe, whatever this imbecile's name is. And the guy's a follower of mine. And he's always insulting me and he's always taking shots at me. And I said to him, bro, like, why are you following me if you're always going to be derogatory towards me? So today the guy went on the Twitter and he made the comment that Vince Russo is the most bitter person in the world because he so badly wants to be in the wrestling business and he's not. So Vince is bitter, and I'm no longer going to listen to his show. Can I address the bitterness for the last time? For the last time, I've made it clear. I love the wrestling business growing up, and as a matter of fact, my guest, his father, was one of the reasons why I fell in love with the wrestling. I loved real professional wrestling. I loved when I worked in the wrestling business. I loved it. I'm not bitter today. I'm disappointed because I'm not a fan of the wrestling business anymore. And I come on here every day and I say, I am not a fan of the business. I don't watch the shows. I am not a fan of the business. I don't watch the shows. But yet in this King Joffy's pea brain, somehow, some way, I'm bitter because I'm not in the wrestling. I just moved in a cabin in the woods. Does that not tell you anything? I feed a lake full of catfish every day at 4:00 in the afternoon. My own lake, my own luck, and I'm a bitter man because I'm not in the trenches of the muck and mire of what is called professional wrestling. You're an imbecile. So you know what I did? I blocked you. Now you're blocked, bro. I'm done with you. I'm over with you. All right. Let me bring on my next guest. I'm very excited to have him on. As I said, I gave you a couple of hints. I was a huge fan of his father's. And bro, here's why I say I don't like wrestling today. Look at the heels you have today. My next guest, his freaking dad was the heel of all heels. I remember him and his matches vividly to this day. And I was like a 12-year-old kid. I'm 56 years old now. When you looked up pro wrestler in the encyclopedia, his picture was in there. And his son, who is my guest, was a can't miss blue chipper. The blood was running through his veins, being raised in a family by a legend. But something happened along the way. We're going to talk about that. But like I said, he went on to bigger and better things without the wrestling business. So let me bring on my guest today. And I'm talking about from WWE, WCW, Shawn Stasiak. Shawn, how you doing today, my friend?
Hey, Vince. How you doing, man? Hey, great introduction. I really appreciate your passion, man. It resonates right through the screen, brother.
You know, Shawn, I got to tell you something, man. You were kind of laying low. And then all of a sudden, your picture comes up, and I see a current picture of you. And, bro, I got to tell you, Shawn, is it okay if I say what your age is right now?
I'll be 47 this summer, July 21st.
Shawn, I saw this picture of you, and I'm like, this guy looks like a freaking male model. This guy freaking looks like the last day I freaking worked with him back in 2000. Bro, that was 17 years ago, bro. And you look like you're getting younger.
I appreciate it. Man, I don't feel younger, especially today, but I'll tell you, hey, I'll take that. I'll take that compliment, man. It's I can't believe it's been 17 years, Vince. My God. I mean, 17 years ago, people would say in their mid to late 40s, hey, before you know it, brother, you're going to be my age. I'm like, yeah, whatever. They weren't lying, were they? Jesus. I mean, here we are.
Yeah, well, here I am. I'm 56, and I look every second of 56.
Actually, bro. Vince, I'm going to say to you, I think you look great, man. This is not one of those kiss-ass sessions. I'll shoot you straight. I think you look great.
Well, bro, you look fantastic, Shawn. And Shawn, listen, I would be, this interview is going to be all about you, but I would not be serving justice if I did not bring up the great Stan the Man Stasiak. And bro, everything I said about him, Shawn, I meant. Growing up in Long Island, New York, obviously, Shawn, I was a Bruno guy. I'm an Italian American. I was a Bruno guy. So your dad scared the hell out of me. And you know what I love about this, bro? Shawn, today they're going out there. This is why I'm not a wrestling fan anymore. They're flip-flopping and flying all over the place. They're acrobats. It's Circus Soleil. Somebody's going to get killed. There's no storytelling in matches anymore. I don't even know what it is. It's not professional wrestling. But your father, bro, I swear to God, he had me convinced with one punch he would stop a man's heart, bro. The heart punch.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, just like yourself sharing his story. I learned more about my dad after he passed in '97, and shortly after that, I had my tryout with WWF at the time back in 1998, and you were there, of course, with the company, and you might, I believe that you were a part of bringing me in and starting up my first gimmick and getting my start with WWF at the time. But I learned more stories about my dad and learned more about him as I got older, and the exact story you just said, the effect he had on people such as yourself, especially in the Northeast, that he scared the crap out of people and was so believable. And was, my dad wasn't the greatest built guy. He wasn't a bodybuilder. He wasn't a physique guy, but he was a mean son of a gun. And he was believable, man. And back in those days, I mean, less was more. They told a story and people believed it, man, and that's exactly what you just said is what I hear all the time now.
Shawn, I believed it to the point that I have to ask you the question. When little Shawn Stasiak was running around the house and getting out of hand, did Mr. Stasiak, did he take your hand, put it behind your head, bro, and boom? Did he ever? Were you ever on the receiving end of a heart punch, Shawn?
Not exactly, but I will tell you the story. What he did do that used to scare the crap out of me as a little kid. I'd be sitting at the dinner table with my mom and my dad. I was the only child, right? And in fact, ironically enough, this was in Hartford, Connecticut. Of course, back in the territory days, we traveled, from Portland, Don Owens territory to California, to Dallas, Texas with the Von Erichs, all the way back up to Vince's territory, Vince Sr., Vince McMahon, today's father. And I remember sitting at the dinner table, and I would be, not eating my food and horsing around, and my dad would just look at me and say, "Shawn, yeah? Eat," and bang his hand down on the table, and holy crap, I couldn't eat at that point. I was shaking, but my dad was a loving man. He would never lay a hand on me, but he was intimidating. I did listen to him.
Shawn, I have to ask you this question. Are you married?
Boy, you're blowing my cover here, Vince. No, I'm not married. I'm still single.
You've never been married?
Never been married. Here's the thing. I've never been married. I've never been engaged. I don't have any kids. I don't even have a dog, Vince. I haven't been on a date in 10 months. I live a pretty secluded life.
Bro, I can't believe that, bro.
It's by choice, man. And I'm really focusing on this new chapter of my life, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But never been married, never been engaged. Just one of those things where, I've had love in my life. I've had a few relationships, and I could have gotten married, but guess what? It would have ended divorce because it didn't work out anyway.
Yeah, because Shawn, the reason why I had a reason for asking you that question, and the reason why I was going to ask you that question was because as a kid growing up, your dad's the legendary Stan the Man Stasiak, but always on the road. Dad's always gone. Dad's always gone. Dad's always gone. And as a kid, you're seeing this, and especially as a son, I can't imagine this is easy for you. That's why I asked the question, did you ever get married knowing you were going to be away just as much as your father was? But the fact that you never got married, there's obviously no answer to that.
Well, it's not, it's never say never. I mean, it's one of those things where I love kids. In fact, I'll get into this a little bit later, but I have an alter ego face painted character that I started years ago. In fact, I set that's how I got my WWE tryout years ago. And I work with kids on an anti-bullying campaign, anti-bullying movements. I love children, love kids. I'd love to, have a couple still, at my age. I'm probably going to have to find a younger gal more than likely. But the point is that really didn't have any bearing as to why I've been single all these years. But yeah, it was tough. It was a tough, growing up the son of a famous wrestler. I mean, especially in the territory days and back in the days of, and I'm tying this into the bullying thing, when you're traveling around different parts of the country, and at that time in the late 70s and 80s, of course, the business wasn't exposed. People they thought it was, it was real, right? Like MMA, like mixed martial arts. They thought it was the real deal. They didn't know it was choreographed and the outcome was determined. So therefore, and of course, my dad was always a heel wherever we went. And so I was always a skinny, frail kid, late mature, and everything I've done, Vince, in my life, even to this very day, I'm still learning the social media stuff. I'm just getting out there. I'm still a baby when it comes to this stuff. But the point is that I would get picked on like you wouldn't believe. And then they watch wrestling, especially here in Dallas with the Von Erichs, my dad being the heel and beating up on the Von Erichs. What do you think happened to me on Monday at lunchtime at school? You know, I used to get chased around and I was picked on. So I was a victim of bullying, and it was hard being the son of a famous wrestling father who was over as a heel back in the 80s.
Do you think, Shawn, I was very close with David Flair. And, I did as much as I thought I could do with David Flair because I love David Flair as a person. But, bro, it was almost like he could never get up from underneath the stigma of being Ric Flair's son. Do you think you suffered a little bit of that once you decided to make wrestling your career?
Vince, yes, I put a lot of pressure on myself, and I don't want to sound cliche as hindsight's 2020, but it's true. I've had time over the years. I've been away from mainstream television or wrestling television for the last, since 2002. So what is that? Almost 15 years. 15 years this September. It's one of those things where, I put a lot of pressure on myself looking back. Well, I lost my father in 97. Vince, and shortly after that, I felt that it was my obligation. Not that I didn't have a passion for professional wrestling. I grew up, I watched my dad back in the Portland territory days. I had got memories of Andre the Giant in my living room drinking beer with my dad until 5 o'clock in the morning. I mean, can you imagine a little kid walking down the stairway hearing, oh, 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 oh. You walk down and you see your dad with a guy who's bigger and taller than your dad by at least 6-7 inches, drinking. I mean, those are the kind of memories that I had as a young kid growing up. So I was exposed to Roddy Piper, Playboy Buddy Rose, Ed Wiskowski. These are some names that not a lot of mainstream, they didn't, well, I shouldn't, no disrespect to them, but in the territory days, some of these guys, Killer Tim Brooks, Ric Flair, Harley Race, a lot of these guys, Rocky Johnson, Rock's dad. I met The Rock, Dwayne, when we were just kids, when we were 8 years old. We used to horse around in the ring in the Portland Sports Arena when the wrestling show was over. And, I just have these memories that people have never heard these stories, and they're about to hear them soon, and they're hearing them right now on your show, on your podcast. But what happened for me, Vince, is that I always felt deep down inside that I would give professional wrestling a try. I got into amateur wrestling. I was very successful as a high school and college wrestler, Division I, Boise State. I'm not trying to put myself over, but I was a two-time Pac-10 runner-up, was an NCAA qualifier 2 years in a row, placed top 16 my last year, my senior year. My point is, though, I always felt that I would give professional wrestling a shot. I got a late start. I didn't try out really until I was almost 28 years old. So for being a son of a famous wrestler, a lot of these guys, these second generations, they get started at a really early age, like in their teenage years, right? For me, it was a late start. But when I got that start with WWE in Stanford back in 98, I had just lost my father, man, and I realized that I had put a lot of pressure on myself because I felt it was an obligation, that I had huge shoes to fill. He was a legend. It was the legacy that I it's funny how you realize these things later on in life. I look back and went, God, what went wrong? What happened? Of course, I made some stupid decisions, and I don't point any fingers at anybody but myself. I learned that over the years. I used to be bitter and point fingers and blame, this is what, but I never got the ball. I never even scratched the surface, and everybody knows that. I know you know that. Most people know that. I know that. But looking back, what I did, I was trying to carry on my father's legacy, and I don't think I dealt with my father's death correctly. And I think that's why when I got backstage at WWE, you could only imagine, I just didn't want to screw up. And as you know, if you try too hard not to screw up, guess what? You're going to screw up. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is I just put too much pressure on myself, and I became a little too concerned, and I had insecurities, and I had boys, and I was just trying to fulfill those, and I did not want to screw up. And so I kind of labeled myself, and in that business, it's a shark world, and I was in with a bunch of sharks. I had really no formal experience other than just following my father when I was a young kid, had my athletic career in high school and college. And, I just watched the business. I had my favorites, and I was a huge fan. I was a mark. We're all marks, to a degree. But when I got back there, I didn't know how to really conduct myself, I guess, politically. I wore my heart on my sleeve. I didn't have it. I'm the only child. I lost my mom when she was 39 years old, the first day of high school in Portland, Oregon, and September 4th, 1984, first day of high school. Lost my dad in 97. So really, I was on my own, man. And so I kind of looked at the WWE. I looked at the WWE locker room as kind of like a family. It's like I was looking to fulfill a void. And that was the biggest mistake I could have made, and made a couple poor decisions, and they were never wrongful intents. As you know, some of them we'll get into them, I'm sure. But that was the demise of my career.
Let me stop you right there, because let me stop you right there. You said something very interesting. You said a couple of things very interesting. You said you wore your heart on your sleeve, and I know you did, because I know you. I wear my heart on my sleeve as well. But then you said, I looked at the WWE as a family, because, you know, your mother had just passed away. Your father had passed away. Your father's legacy was in that company. So, bro, you know, I mean, as a stand-up guy, yeah, you're looking at this company as perhaps a family. You know, Shawn, is that a bad thing? I mean, like, how did that hurt you going in with that kind of an attitude?
Well, it's interesting what you just said, because you just saying that right now, it's funny how you just made me think about something right during this podcast that I never, the in-depth thought I just had.
They call me the Oprah Winfrey of podcasting, so be on your toes, Shawn. Go ahead.
Well, you just opened up a portal. I got a little emotional there, man, for a minute. I had to hold back. Yeah, man. I believe that, nobody can ever replace your father or your mother, right? Your birth parents. But I think because I felt such a void, and when I came to the WWE, I felt that it was destiny. I really did. And it was destiny. I mean, we're exactly where we're supposed to be in life, no matter what, good, bad, or the ugly, or indifferent. We're exactly where we're supposed to be. The beautiful thing is we can change that moving forward. I don't want to pull any Tony Robbins on you, but I am a motivational speaker. And this just comes out from my passion, my heart, wanting to help people and connect with people on an authentic level. That's very, very important for me. That's my next legacy, by the way. But wrestling, for me at that time, when I entered the WWE, I was looking at the McMahon family more or less as maybe members, maybe fulfill a family that I didn't have. When I used to work out at the headquarters in Stanford, I would see Vince. And I work, I'm a gym rat, and I'd be in there, and it'd be late at night, and Vince would be in there sometimes, and I would approach. He was intimidating, I didn't want to. Stephanie was even in there at times. I remember making the point in my head, saying, be nice, be cordial, but keep your distance. I don't want to I don't want to say the wrong things or I was walking on eggshells, and that's stupid, because today I'm not that way, man. I am who I am. I'm comfortable in my own skin now. Years later, you mature, you grow, you learn. That's what life's about, right? It's a journey. But back then, I had a little fear. I didn't want to piss the wrong people off, and I wanted to do the right things. But I used to approach Vince, and I would go up to him. And I remember, a couple conversations. He'd be on the Stairmaster, and we're talking about workout plans and supplement, protein powders and amino. And Vince is a workout freak too, Vince McMahon. And I just remember him talking to me, and I remember connecting and making eye contact. And I remember, wow, it's almost like he had traits of my dad that I truly missed. And I was like, wow, boy, maybe this is something that, maybe that I thought, because they brought me in and I had such a high regard, and I felt that, all I had to do was just show up, perform, learn, get better. And in a couple, 2-3 years, develop and have some, I thought for sure politically, let's just get right into it. I thought that I was going to have a little bit of a support, a push, and it never really came.
It's almost like the guy who goes to college and wants to pledge the fraternity, and his brother was the big deal in the fraternity. So yeah, right. I mean, I understand that completely, and I got to tell you something, bro. I would expect the same thing. My father being a cornerstone of the business, and me going to work for that company, I think you had every right to feel that way.
Well, regardless of whether it was right or not right, it was just the way it was. It was the way I feel. It was an organic emotion, or organic intuitive that I felt to connect with those guys that way. But then you know, and you said it wasn't my fault. Well, where I went wrong, though, for me, Vince, is I realized that because I guess I was just, you know, I had some insecurities. I mean, we all have insecurities, right? I had some major insecurities back then because I just didn't want to screw up. I wanted to succeed. I wanted to make my family name proud. I wanted to carry on my father's legacy. And I just tried too hard. I put too much pressure on myself. And so, you know, I would go to the boys, ask, you know, questions about how do I look? How's, you know, it was just, I was just not in the right frame of mind. You know, I mean, it's so foreign to me now. I mean, who I am today as a man, you know, and I've often thought, you know, I've even pitched the idea a couple times about a potential return to the WWE. I know it's a different product. It's a whole different landscape. I get that. I believe in evolution. I agree with what you said. There's a lot of principles and things that are being missed, a lot of elements and tangibles that are missing in wrestling today. I'm not going to be one of those generational people saying, well, my business was this and yours was the shits. And, you know, I'm not one of those guys. I believe in evolution, and you got to evolve with the times. And, you know, we live in a digital signal world today, Vince, as you know. But I've often thought, with my mind today and what I know today and what I could bring to the table. Look, here's a storyline that I pitched, and I hope I'm not getting off topic. I feel like I'm maybe running a bit of a rabbit hole. You might have to cut me off, Vince, because once I get going, I get going. But here's the thing. You know, there's never been a father-son duo in the history of the WWE or WWF in the McMahon promotion to become WWE champion, okay? I could still be the first. I've presented this story. I have a video project that I put together, which I don't know if you've seen, but I can get it to you. I actually spoke to Vince a couple years ago following WrestleMania, I think in 2015. And he really appreciated the video. He loved the storyline. He loved seeing some authentic vintage footage of my dad. I'm very, very passionate about this. I can tell you back in the day that when I started wrestling, I was still trying to find myself. I didn't know who I was, man. The first gimmick character I was given, I don't know if you were behind that or not, maybe Ed Ferrara at the time, the meat gimmick. I didn't know what meat was. I'll be quite honest. When I had anticipated my whole life to follow after my dad's footsteps and get to the WWE out of all. I didn't want to go to WCW. I didn't want to go to Japan. I didn't want to go work. Not that I wasn't willing to pay my dues or work the indies, but when WWE bit on what I had sent them as far as a video package, and they said, come on in, I mean, I'm home. This is my home. This is where I want to be. And so, but I didn't, you know, the meat character, when I heard that, I was like,
let me ask you this again. You know, you saying you tried too hard, your insecurities, maybe you made some mistakes. Well, but even if that's the case, and I get that, bro, I understand that. And that's a lot of pressure, bro, being the son of a great legend. I understand that. But Shawn, I would have to think, I mean, did any of the boys like try to take you under their wing to smarten you up and say, you know, Shawn, you know, be careful about this, be careful about that? I would have to assume that at some point somebody would have tried to do that, no?
Well, it's ironic you say that, because when I first started, shortly after that, they brought in Kurt Angle. Now, I idolized Kurt Angle. I looked up to Kurt because I was an amateur wrestler for many years. He was an Olympic gold medalist, right? I knew who Kurt Angle was. In fact, I met Kurt Angle at the NCAA tournament, and he had no idea that he'd ever even entered the professional wrestling realm. But a couple years later, shortly after I met him, he was in Stanford, showed up at the Dory Funk Jr., the Funking Dojo camps with Tom Pritchard. And I traveled with Kurt. Well, Kurt didn't know anything. Kurt was a rook. He didn't know, you know, he was just learning and training. So I was with Kurt for like a year or so, traveled the road. I lived on the road with Kurt. So there were some, you know, and then of course, you know, Adam Copeland, Edge, you know, Christian, Sean Morley, Andrew Martin, Tess, God rest his soul, as well as many, many others that we've lost over the years. But no one ever really smartened me up. I didn't have a Pat Patterson, for instance, who kind of took Dwayne Johnson, you know, the Rock under his wing. Or, you know, I'm not saying I needed anybody. You know, we're accountable for ourselves. And I was, you know, 28, 29 years old. I should, but I didn't. Like I said, I wore my heart on my sleeve. Things I said and did, I thought I was doing the right thing. Meanwhile, I was you know, putting my foot in my mouth.
Yeah, you know, Shawn, there's the infamous story, you know, about you know, you taped a conversation. I think it was Davey Boy and Steve Blackman, or whatever the case may be. And that was the cause of the first release from the WWE. Am I correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now listen, Shawn, I look at that and I mean, I look at that and I say, okay, that's a mistake. There's no doubt about it. That's a mistake. But we all make mistakes and we all learn from our mistakes. In your mind, was that just the excuse to terminate the contract with you and the WWE? Did they use that to prematurely end the relationship?
Oh, Vince, I mean, who's to say? Who knows in that business? I mean, it's so you never know, right? Unless you're in the office and you're working directly with Vince McMahon or Jim Ross at the time, or who knows, right? I guess today it would be Triple H and Stephanie and that crew, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I would, Tom Pritchard had made he says, Shawn, you're a heat-seeking missile. And what it was that, I came in with the name. I had a great collegiate wrestling background, so I've been a real athlete my whole life. I had some attributes that were a general consensus. I brought some attributes there. And so then again, here I am questioning myself and trying to be reassured by a lot of people saying, hey, did that look okay? Do I look okay? Hey, and just too much. And so it became almost like I was maybe a little neurotic, man. I mean, I see it all the time with these young kids today. I get to be the veteran and I get to smarten them up, right? But the point is that I think that who knows? I think this is my personal feeling. I think that people who were threatened by me, because a lot of people feel threatened in that business, use that as an who was someone had told me, I think it was Mike Enos or someone, one of the Beverly brothers back he said, Shawn, he goes, professional wrestling or professional wrestlers are like a bunch of junior high school students with money. It's almost like they'll take one little thing and just jump all over and just blow it up and jump on this bandwagon. And that's exactly what happened to me, I believe. I think that people that saw me coming up as a potential threat looked at that and said, you know what, let's go ahead and just really get, stick it to him with Vince and tell him how bad he is for the locker room or how bad he's not good. I'm a poison to the, and so that's probably what happened more than likely. Now, look, I'm gonna go ahead and address that tape recorder incident because that's notorious. I used to try to run from it and say, oh, guys drive me nuts. I thought I told my story a million times. People know the reality. But I realize that now I embrace it because it's always synonymous with my name. It's always going to be out there. So I'm going to turn right into it. Bottom line is, man, if any of those guys in the locker room, including yourself, Vince, knew me from an early age, you would realize that my dad gave me a tape recorder for my, I think it was a Christmas present or a birthday present when I was like 7, 8 years old. I used to record imitating wrestlers and doing interviews and imitating people and recording my parents. And I was always almost like a journalist, and they always also said, in the wrestling business, if you're on the road all those hours traveling, bring a tape recorder, work on your promos, work on your skill set, work on your character, right? That's all that was for. And same with video. I just love documenting stuff. I love expression. Where I went wrong, and this is the only thing that went wrong, was that I was in the car with Davey Boy Smith, and God rest his soul too, Steve Blackman. We're in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. As you know, everything's French there. Those guys were bitching and complaining and gripe. We were on the road for like 3-4 days. We're on a loop, right? And I just thought it'd be funny to record these guys and then play it back to them later like a rib. Hey, man, you guys sound like a couple of bitches, complaining. And what happened was, I remember I was at the Montreal airport and I had it out and I said, I think I came up to Steve and I said, I had it recorded. I said, hey, Steve, what do you think of the Montreal airport? And I put it up to his, like I was interviewing him, right? Like a news reporter. And he looked at me, he goes, are you recording? I said, yeah. He goes, I could tell that he didn't want it, I was just joking, playing around. He goes, can you put that away? I said, sure. He goes, you weren't recording in the car or anything, were you? I said, that's where I went wrong. I lied. I said, no. I was recording in the car, arguing and just fun, playful stuff. That's all it was. And I knew at that point, I said, oh, crap. I said, these guys don't know who I am. That's right. They don't know who I am. I can't, I took that for granted. And so I said, okay, well, so much for that rib. So I put it in my gym bag. I had a bunch of cassette tapes because back then you didn't even have CDs hardly back then. So I had a bunch of tapes. I had a tape. Look, the next loop, I was in the locker room, all those tapes and that tape recorder in my bag. It's a paranoid business. I'm in the locker room, right? I go out to the ring to go over my match. I'm rehearsing my stuff. I think it was in Buffalo, New York. And one of the agents came out. I think it was Arn Anderson. I think came out, or someone. I forget who it was. Maybe Arn wasn't there at the time. But anyway, came out and got me and said, hey, you're in trouble, man. There's some big things that just, what, you know? I go back there, and sure enough, the whole locker room staring at me, and they're into my bag, and there's all those tapes. And imagine how that made me look, and then listening to them on the tape record. I mean, it was like, you know, it's like the guy that had the knife and the murder weapon, the gun, but didn't commit the crime, right? But it was on me. I had blood all over me. But yet I was innocent because there was no wrongful intent whatsoever. You know, it came out later, well, maybe he's working for Hard Copy. Maybe he's working for WCW. You know, it's a paranoid business. And I understand that now being, you know, look, if I was in the locker room today and a young rook came in and did that, I'd be pissed off. I'd be questioned. I wouldn't trust him. I get that. But, man, Vince, it was a wrong place, wrong time, stupid move. But it had absolutely no wrongful intent whatsoever. And I got fired over that. I lost my WWE dream because of that shit.
Now, Shawn, you at that point, I would have to believe, yeah, bro, you lost your WWE dream at that point. But I would have to guess, probably more importantly, bro, you had to now be putting even more pressure on yourself because now you're probably looking at it like you failed your old man. Vince,
boy, I just got goosebumps there. I didn't know you could get goosebumps when you have some.
I'm Oprah, bro. Oprah.
I'm telling you, man, you're bringing it out of me, Vince. Keep, you know, besides losing my mom and my father by experiencing their death, I felt that was the death of me. It was probably the, you know, and it's nothing's ever harder than losing your loved ones, okay, of any sort, you know, be it a spouse, be it a mom, a dad, sibling, whatever, a great friend, whatever. But that was probably in some ways even harder because, you know, with my father and my mom, they were ill for a while. It was almost kind of expected, even though when it happens, it's like, oh my God, you know, you just want that one last phone call, that one, and it's not there, it's done, you know, that's it. With wrestling, it's like, at least I'm still alive. These people are still alive. Maybe I can convince, maybe, you know, no, man, it was like they weren't having me. I felt like that, and I don't want to sound like a sap story, but this is the truth, man. I felt like I was a dog kicked out, you know, in outside in the rain, you know, in the cold rain while they all were in the fire. And I was, you know, a comfortable fireplace cabin. I was looking in the window trying to get in. They wouldn't have me, man. I felt in a lot of ways, I felt betrayed, man, in a lot of ways, because I thought that they would, anybody with a position or influence or power there could heard my story and could see on my face and see the reality that there was no wrongful intent whatsoever. It was just a bad rib gone wrong, but they weren't having it. And it's a brutal business, and it was an excuse. And someone got in Vince's ear and convinced him that he's no good and get rid of him. And that's what happened. And so now I'm thinking, you know, well, that goes to the next chapter of my pursuit. You know, I wasn't done there. I tucked my tail between my legs and I scampered off for a few weeks, but then I, you know, kind of resurfaced and kind of went to the back of the drawing boards and thought, well, there is WCW. You know what? I'm going to give that a shot. And that's kind of where it's ironic because you had just gone over there, I think, back in 2000. And so I believe that you were part of bringing me in there. Is that not true?
Oh, you know, Terry Taylor, you know, suggested it. And like I said, by all means, I mean, you know, like I said, bro, you know, the look, you know, all the tools that you had, absolutely. You know, I mean, I was all for bringing you back to the company.
Yeah. And I was very, very grateful for that. I can't even begin to tell you, you know, I had many nights I cried because I was just so grateful and felt so blessed that I was getting that second chance. I knew that I was going to be up against a lot of pushback probably with people because, you know, the word gets around. It's a small community. You know, the boys are the boys. They communicate regardless of what company they're with. And so, you know, but I had gone to the power plant. ironically enough, Paul Orndorff was one of my high school, or actually even earlier than that, childhood idols, man. You know, he was one of those guys that had the ferociousness, the intensity, the physique. He was believable, man. That's what we're missing today in wrestling, Vince. I don't need to tell you that, but although I'm pulling for some of the guys today, I'll watch the product, and I'm trying to suspend my disbelief. I'm trying to be that fan again. And sometimes I get little glimpses, and it's like, oh, I'm always fast forward. You know, I'm trying, man. I'm trying to get into but okay, I'm getting off topic. But the point is that I went to the power plant, and I forgot who it was. Maybe it was Terry Taylor. Said, go down the power plant. You're going to have some proving to do because of what happened. Go down there, you know, just work your ass off. Be humble, which I was. I went down there and just started from scratch. And that's when I met the likes of Chuck Palumbo and Mark Jindrak, Sean O'Hare. And, you know, I went out down there. I spent 3 weeks to a month down there, busted my ass in the power plant. I connected with those guys. I bonded with them. I think at first they knew who I was because I'd been a little more experienced. I'd had a year of TV before they came aboard WCW mainstream. But we bonded, man, and I felt included. I felt like a family. They took me in because they heard my story. They believed me. I proved myself. I had to prove myself, and I had no problem doing that. I don't mind working hard. You know, I don't mind getting gritty and working hard, and I did. And so I told them, I said, I want to be the next Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. I want to emulate myself between him and Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig. Those were my two guys, you know, that I really wanted to emulate my career after. You know, I love my father, but my style, the way that I had built myself, you know, physically and everything. Of course, I was a huge mark or fan for, you know, the guys with the face paint, you know, the larger-than-life characters, you know, Ultimate Warrior, Sting. You know, I love Rick Rude. You know, he was another one. But my point is that I wanted to take what I had learned from WWE, take that experience, and just use it as a fire to burn, to prove, to basically say, in other words, you know, to stick it up their butt and say, you know what, you screwed up because I'm gonna prove you wrong, that you made a mistake. So I think that gave me the drive, and you know what, for what it was worth, even though WCW was. You know, it was on its last leg or whatever. I feel so, Vince, I can't begin to tell you that company treated me better than the company that I always wanted to come home to. That was my home, WWE. Yeah. I had more TV time. We won, you know, tag team titles. I traveled the world. I connected with Kevin Nash and the Natural Born Thrillers, and I had a great time, man. And I just feel so grateful and blessed. I made more money. You know, I got more TV time. I perfected my craft. I shouldn't say perfected. I improved my craft, but I was really coming into my own. And then, of course, right when I was really making that next level change, the company got bought out, you know.
Yeah, and you got to think at that point, Shawn, there is no way they're bringing you back over to the WWE. I mean, you had to think that, no?
I did, Vince, but you know what? I felt that I had improved my craft as far as, you know, just my ring savvy, the matches that I was having, some of the who I was involved with. I mean, you know, I know that these guys at the time that I connected with them, I want to share a quick story that was just like a kid in a candy store. Again, this is the fan in me growing up, but you know, I got to work with some of the best legends in the business. I mean, you know, or at least in more modern times. I know you mentioned my dad's era and everything. That's really super legend, right? But I mean, I was in a battle royal with WCW, and I remember being in that ring, and it was everywhere I looked. There's Ric Flair. Look, there's Sting. There's Lex Luger. There's Randy Savage. Here comes Hulk Hogan. And regardless of prior relationships and experiences that you might have had with these guys, but I'm just sharing, It was like a kid in a candy store. I was just felt so grateful and blessed that I got to be in the ring. Even, you know, the only thing I did with Hogan was throw a punch, block, punch me, throw me over the top rope, and that was it. But hey, man, I remember turning around and looking at him and thinking, wow, there's my childhood memory. Okay, I'm going to take your head off now, and then wham, you know. But the point is I just felt the WCW experience for me was such a wonderful blessing, and it was I was so grateful for it. But I felt that I had proved myself. My work was good enough that I felt confident enough that they would take me back. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was just a faith I had. Now that the voice of doubt was there that, you know what, I don't know. Are they going to, are they not letting this go from what happened with the tape recorder incident? Is this something that, they're just not going to budge on? I don't know. But I felt that I had a shot. Sure enough, I was one of the 10 contracts they bought over, probably because it wasn't one of the higher end ones like the Goldbergs, the Stings, and so forth that waited their contracts out. So I came right over, and I felt, Vince, I felt great. I was so excited about being back home,
What was there anything different? What was different when you went back?
I think I had a more sense of respect from generally speaking, I think from everybody. I think they realized that, hey, this guy's grown, he's learned, he's been away for a year and a half. My work was improved. I think just the way I carried myself backstage, things were different. I was growing up. I had learned a lot, from that experience. But I don't want to lead into this next chapter. The next chapter will be the second reign of WWE experience. They didn't really go anywhere, man. And looking back, I realized that, I was no more than a class clown. They had me running into milk trucks and walls. And, I did work with the likes of Steve Austin and Kurt Angle and The Rock. But wherever you saw them, I was like the Wile E. Coyote of the WWE. If you saw, I was running into milk trucks and walls and just doing some goofy, stupid stuff that at the time I was like, I didn't really care for it. But I said to myself, you know what, maybe this is just a proving ground. Just be a team player. Your time will come. I came up with an idea of the Planet Stasiak gimmick, which we never got on the same page. Look, I'm a big Jim Carrey fan and actor. When I watched the movie Batman Forever or Batman Returns, Jim Carrey played the Riddler. And I loved his mannerisms. I loved the way he looked with the spiked hair, and he was just very charismatic and colorful. He was crazy, but he was someone not to mess with. And so I saw the Planet Stasiak character that I came up with as kind of emulated myself. There's a lot of wrestlers. I mean, you look at The Rock, for instance. I think you see a little bit of Elvis Presley there, when he was first coming up. You see people use bits and pieces of different talent, whether they're actors, musicians, professional athletes, whatever. What you see as a character, as you know, is a culmination of maybe many little different things and traits, right? And so I could connect it with Jim Carrey because of my personality. I'm a little goofy and fun, and but yet I can be I've known as intimidating at times and put on a certain suit that calls for aggression and being tenacious, okay? And so I saw that with Jim Carrey. And so the Planet Stasiak idea, what I had envisioned, Vince, was like, I had this idea of like, this animated entrance where the lights go out and it's almost like a spaceship type of thing where the guy's flying. It's Planet Stasiak. He's coming to land in the arena and the lights are out and all the kids would have like for merchandise. I mean, this would have been a great merchandise idea. Watch some people now steal my idea, and you'll see this in about a month. But they all have these flickering lights like Jeff Jarrett used to have with those glasses, the flashing light, and everybody getting behind this because the kids would have loved this character, right? And it would have been entertaining, charismatic, like a Jim Carrey's Riddler in Batman. But I cut a promo in front of Vince one time and backstage because Sergeant Slaughter, he always treated me great. He said, "Hey, heard you got this idea." He goes, "Vince wants to talk to you about it." Great. So I said, "Where is he?" He goes, "He's right over there." Great. Went around the curtain. There's Vince. And he goes, "Hey, I heard you had a character you have in mind." And instead of explaining the character, I just went right into character and just cut a promo on him, right? In the character. And he seemed like he loved it. He goes, "Well, pal, that's quite an idea." I said, "We got something to work on, So I thought, man, I said, this is it. This might be my thing. This might be the next elevation. And so, man, we ran it for a little while. They didn't have the entrance down. It's just we weren't on the same page. I didn't want to, at the time, I felt that I was kind of coming up, and I didn't want to press too hard and come across as too big of an ego. I'm playing that political BS game, I just wanted to freaking put asses in seats and make money for the company and for me. I didn't need any of the BS. I didn't want to be part of that and walking on eggshells and shaking everybody's. That's great. Shaking everybody's. I'm respectful to everybody, but it's just, there's too much nonsense to me, right? Yeah. I just wanted to do business. I just wanted to contribute to the team, and I wanted them to be proud, and I want my dad to be proud of me, whether it was Shawn Stasiak, the second-generation wrestler, world-class athlete, full of piss and vinegar, wanting to make history and win the WWE title to be the first father-son duel to win the title, or be this Planet Stasiak character that's larger than life and appeals to all the kids and just entertain people and be an asset to the company. I wanted to keep my worth there. It was important for me to contribute and know that I made a difference, and it just never came, man. And when you start seeing signs in the audience, Planet Stasiak, population 3. Well, hey, those 3 people, man, they made a sign, and out of all the talent, they made a sign for Planet Stasiak. Damn it, that means something. We started seeing signs. Isn't that a sign, Vince, that hey, the shit's working, it's getting over? Well, you know what? I think that. And you probably know this better than I do. I'll pick your brain. Maybe I should interview you. But, maybe they've got people and money invested in these top talents where, is it true? Is it possible that when a guy starts coming up and thinking, well, God, we got money invested in these guys. This guy's contract such and such. He's coming up. Well, let's squash that and kill it now because we got to bring these guys up. Does that happen? Does that go on?
Guys I have spoken to that have left, they have definitely made it clear to me that you have a designated spot, and you're always going to be in that designated spot no matter what. You're never going to move up out of that spot. They view you one way and one way only. Quite a few people told me that. Adam Rose told me that. Damian Sandow told me that. So there's a lot of validity to that, Shawn. So Shawn, how does that end? Because it's a little sketchy. Do they release you, or do you ask for your release?
Well, this is the funny thing, okay? I was traveling with Rob Van Dam at the time, became a very good friend of mine. Rob's a great person, great soul. And I was so frustrated, Vince, because, I was busting my ass, man. I was, I kept my body up, working out in the gym. I'm working on this character. I'm going the extra mile, getting new gear, and, really putting the effort in, and even people, some of the boys backstage are like, hey, man, they acknowledge me we see the effort you're putting in this. We really like it. Even Hogan, out of all people, I know you might not be a fan, but, he even said when he pulled me aside and said, I really like this character. I really see money with this thing, and I'd like to work with you. And that a lot of my biggest memories in the WWE or even in WCW are stuff that never got captured on the camera. You know what I mean? These are I want to just tell you a quick story. I think the audience would appreciate this. I remember I was sitting backstage. It was in St. Louis, Missouri. And it was just myself and Hogan in the locker room. Everybody else had either gone home or I don't know where they were, but it was just Hogan and I. And Hulk was up next. There was a commercial segment, and of course he didn't have his stuff completely. He was still lacing his boots, and it was like 2 minutes, and we're on the air, and he was up. And he's like, and the guy comes in, one of the TV people, the camera guy says, hey, Hulk, you're up next. And so he's, oh man, and he started putting his little, his gimmick on or whatever, and he had the WWE title. And he said, hey, Shawn, or he called me Meat Man. He goes, hey, Meat Man, come here, brother. Can you help me out here? Sure. Came over, put the WWE title around his waist, and there was a mirror there. And of course, he was like, making sure he looked right to walk out. And I just it was a Kodak moment. I just never captured it. And there I was. I felt like that little boy, I guess, all over again. Here I am with Hulk Hogan with the WWE title strapping around his waist, and here I hear him the Planet Stasiak gear, and I'm going, son of a bitch. Where's the camera? Where, and so those are the kind of memories that I'll never forget that were never captured. But anyway, getting to your back to your question on how I got released. I thought I had been doing a good enough job with the Planet Stasiak character. They were doing a brand split. I finished my last loop in California, flew to Toronto, which I used to live, and visited some friends out there. And I got a phone call from Johnny Laurinaitis. It was like at 11 o'clock at night. I saw his call come in, so I better take this. It's work. And I thought, he says, he goes, hey, listen. He goes, listen, Shawn, I just wanted to call you. It's kind of tough for me to tell you this. And he was kind of beating around the bush. I could sense some, just something in the air, man. And I thought he was ribbing me. I thought he was saying, we're going to move you to SmackDown, because I was on the Raw brand at the time. And I had heard rumor that they were going to move me to SmackDown. because they needed some talent over there. And he says, "Now we're releasing you. We're giving you a release." And I thought he was ribbing. At first I said, "Oh, you're full of crap." I said, "Whatever." I said, "When am I going to SmackDown?" He goes, "No, I'm being serious. We're releasing you." And I knew he was, at that moment, I knew that was it. It was real. And man, it was all over again. It was like that. I went through a grieving period, because I said, that's it. I said, I can't do this anymore, because, first of all, I busted my ass for over a year. These guys don't respect me. They don't value me. They say in that business you can't take it personal, but after a while you do take it personal. I'm sorry, I don't give a shit. I did take it personal, and I said, that's it. I'm not doing this. I'm not going to expose myself or subject myself to this anymore. I'm going to go ahead and go back to school. I'm going to become a chiropractor, because that's another aspiring career that I always questioned whether I could do or become. And I was enamored by chiropractic because I was beat up all the time, not just as a college athlete, but especially when I got into pro wrestling. And so that's what happened. I decided, that's it. I'm going to, I had chances to go, or opportunities to go back to Japan, or go to Japan, never been there, but I just felt that it was time for me to close that chapter. And I was young enough at the time. I was only 31, 32. I had some experience, so I thought, you know what, go back to school, get this chiropractic degree, and then if maybe you'll come back. I mean, it's like, it's not like, these guys, when you have like Flair and Hogan's that are still were doing this in their 50s, and I'm thinking, well, it's not unheard of that a late 30 or even in your 40s, for the right, the right angle, storyline, whatever, there still can be a comeback or a short run or whatever. So I just felt that that was the right decision for me, is just to kind of close that chapter, maybe revisit it later. Of course, I went to chiropractic school. It was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. I can't even believe that I even made it through there, to be quite honest. There was even bets in the classroom. You know how hard it was, Vince, for me to be in a classroom, taking biology classes and embryology and anatomy and all this stuff. And I've got kids that are half my age next to me saying, "Hey, aren't you in that video game? I played you last." Oh, great. Yeah, okay. And, so it was tough, man. And I got this mosquito here. You see that? Oh, eat! There, I just smashed it. Oh, you just witnessed me smashing a mosquito. See, that's the tenacious side that's still in me, Vince.
Still alive, bro. I just saw it first-handed.
Look, see that? Look at that mosquito. Look.
So now you're successful, Dr. Shawn Stasiak.
Yeah, man. Success. Success is defined. I guess it's however you define it or how you perceive it. It's been I got through the program. Like I said, it was one of the hardest things I ever could have put myself through mentally. I still found myself, made myself go to the gym. Took 32 to 36 credit hours, a semester, which is double of let's say a major university. Generally, 16 to 18 hours is a full schedule, right? But this was like ridiculous. This was a 4-year program condensed into 3 years, Vince. And so, but yeah, man, I just stuck through it. Had a good group of people, study groups. I just, applied myself, got through it. In 2006, got my license in 2007, and I've been a chiropractor for about a decade now, and it's very rewarding. It's very fulfilling in a lot of ways. Along the way, it's very liberating when someone limps into an office and they can barely walk and they're in excruciating pain, and it's just ruining their lives, and you can do what you do, right, as a chiropractor, and adjusting them, but also connecting with them on an authentic level, letting them know that you care, looking in their eyes and letting them know the feeling the love and the support. And boy, I'll tell you, when they come back walking in normal, it's just it's a super reward. However, for me, Vince, I'm like a lion in a cage, salivating at the mouth. To speak, I'm meant to be on stage. I'm meant to, being in the office is great, but it's not my passion. I'm just being honest. I've had success with it, and so I'm sorry. I feel like I'm running down rabbit holes, but
no, go ahead.
basically, it's taken me, again, I've always been a late mature in everything I've done. And even now, at almost 47 years old, I feel like I'm starting over again for this next chapter. I feel that everything I've done in my life, be it from the son of a famous wrestler to having the college experience, to wrestling experience, going back to school, getting a doctorate, going out in the real world. Okay, that was a challenge, man. Talk about an identity issue. I mean, I didn't realize I spent a couple years trying to figure out, you have this wrestling experience where whether you're on the bottom of the car or top of the car, when you walk out in front of 20,000 people and you've got 5-6 million people watching every step and every move you make, that's pretty euphoric, man. That's hard to find, to fulfill that again. So I've had to learn over the years to find that through a spiritual sense, a way to connect with people in the office, to create that magic, if you will, that I'm helping people and I'm serving others. Is a huge reward, but there's still been something missing for me. Look, I'm an entertainer. I'm a performer. It's just that simple. And I've decided now that I'm taking everything I've done, the entertainer, the performer, all the education, all the amateur wrestling, the professional, everything, all the trials and tribulations. Vince, when I first got out of school, I got my ass kicked. I got my ass handed to me in the real world as far as being a chiropractor. People think, just like in professional wrestling, oh, you're a professional, you must be rich. Yeah. You must be, right? No, it doesn't work that way, man. Just because you're a doctor, because you have a DR in front of your name, it doesn't mean diddly unless you make it happen. They don't teach you about business in school. It's a work there, too. That school's a work. Mm-hmm. It's a business too. They feed you all this stuff, spit you out. Now, I'm not trying to put down the chiropractic profession or the schools. I'm just saying, when kids come up to me and say, "Hey, aren't you that aren't you a chiropractor?" Yeah, I'm going to Parker University. What would it's a chiropractic school here in Dallas. What would you recommend me do? Or what? I always say, run. No, I don't say that. I say, look, if you're really passionate about this, make sure that you get with somebody, a mentor in the real world that's really making it, that's really successful. If this is what you really, really want to do, if you're truly passionate about it, then by all means, stick with it. But for me, I learned the hard way, Vince. Before I even graduated, I was already questioning, going, God, I don't know, man, there's something missing with me. I didn't know if I wanted to try to go out to LA and, pursue maybe some acting or the entertainment world to some degree. But I just decided to stick through and give the chiropractic a run, and I've had success. I've had failures. I've been up and down with it. I'm not going to lie; it's had its challenges, but overall, I'm glad that I did it, and I'm where I am today and who I am today. And so, what I'm doing now is I'm building what I'm calling the Dr. Shawn brand, and that's going to be all encompassing. It's going to be basically Dr. Shawn. Subjectively, he's a charismatic, colorful performer that'll make you laugh, he'll make you smile, he might even make you cry, because he's very real and very organic. And it's all about connecting with people, but truly making a difference in people's lives. So it's a little bit of Tony Robbins, it might be a little bit of Dwayne Johnson, the performer, it might be a little bit of a fitness guru, it might be a particular chiropractor that I look up to, a mentor, for instance. And I'm taking all of this and culminating it into one brand, and I'm calling it Dr. Shawn brand. And so I'm new with this social media stuff. I'm getting ready to launch a YouTube channel in the next couple weeks to a month. I've got a list of all my handles and stuff I had to write down because I got a few of them. Yeah. But I really appreciate you having me on this show. This is probably one of the bigger interviews and audiences that will be able to see and hear my message.
Here's the beautiful thing about you doing this and what you're about to embark on, because, bro, your personality and your passion comes out loud and clear. I mean, and that's why when you talk about going down the road of a motivational speaker with your own brand, and just listening to you on this show, bro, yes, you are an entertainer, and yes, you can motivate people, bro. So I, for one, definitely think you're going down the right path.
Hey, I really appreciate that, Vince. I really do. It's one of those things with my character, phobia, by the way, and that's F-O-B-I-A. But what he stands for is face your fears, overcome your fears and take control of your life. And it's the character that I've used a lot in the community to talk to kids about bullying and self-limiting beliefs and so forth. But the message, what's ironic about it? What's funny, Vince? People sometimes, they joke, say, well, I got this wrestling persona that I play, this Shawn Stasiak character, I'm Dr. Shawn, to a lot of my patients and just people that know me around here in my community here outside of Dallas, right? And then the phobia character, what was once a Halloween joke or, a character that I played became more of it's not a seasonal thing. It's a year-round thing. And it's funny because, we all go through our challenges every day. As we do. No matter what age, and not just the message of this character isn't so much just for kids; it's for anybody. Because not sometimes, but a lot of people, a lot of times, feel that they're being bullied in life, whether it's just the job that they're in, relationships that they're in, circumstances in life, especially as you become an adult. I mean, this, man. You go through all kinds of trials and tribulations. That's part of the life journey. I'm not trying to turn this into a motivational speaking segment, but the character, what's funny about it is I've been down in the dumps many times, and I've literally thought to myself, God, this is so bizarre and ironic, but here's a character that I created that's an alter ego, so to speak, a theatrical expression of me, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, wow, I just need to listen to that alter ego because I need to be the phobia character. It's almost like, would that constitute to be a man with multiple personalities?
That's it. That's the way it sounds to me, bro. Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, I say that in fun and light, but I thought about it. It's like, listen to the character because I have to pull myself out of the gutter sometimes through that character. So anyway, I don't know where I was going with that, but just wanted
how can people give us all the information, Shawn, of how to follow you? Because I know you have a website. I know you're on Twitter, especially with this new program you're starting. Tell everybody out there how they could continue to follow you.
Okay, so I'm going to run down this list here. And so I figure since this is a podcast on an audio portion and on a video portion, they can always stop, rewind. So I'm going to go ahead and so I'll start with the websites, okay? DrShawnStipich.com. That's going to be the focal point of this new Dr. Shawn brand, where I'm going to be doing lots of videos, almost like creating my own reality TV show, okay? But I'm going to have pertinent information on there about health, wellness, chiropractic, some spiritual stuff, okay? I'm not a holy roller, not religious. I don't really get caught up in ideologies, but I have my own relationship with the divine and the angels, if you will, okay? Okay, so that's that first one. And, of course, DrShawnStasiak.com. Well, that is going to be a lot of wrestling fans. Stasiak's more of a recognizable name, so they don't know who Stipich is, okay? People that know me personally know that's my legal name, okay? You can go to Google and see that. I mean, it's not a secret anymore. You can find anything out. So that'll be a link to DrShawnStipich.com. Then I've got, of course, PhobiaTV.com. That's FOBIA TV.com. And, of course, ShawnStasiak.com. See, I told you I had lots of personalities. Okay, now on Facebook, I've got a personal page, which is Shawn Stasiak -Stipich. Just punch in Shawn Stasiak. I'll pop up. You can't miss me. I have a fan page at Dr. Shawn 008, like James Bond. You got Dr. Shawn that turns into the alter ego. You got Dr. David Banner, and you piss him off. He turns into the big green monster. By the way, I'm a big superhero fan. You can see the big green monster. Okay. Anyway, I had to plug that. But that's the fan page is at Dr. Shawn 008, as well as Twitter is at Dr. Shawn 008. That's SHAWN, not seen, SEAN, for those who spell my name that way. And then, of course, I got Instagram, which I'm trying to build. And I'm a little bit embarrassed expressing this, Vince, because these guys are going to go to these handles and go, God, this guy doesn't have hardly any followers. Well, come on, guys. Join me. Follow me. I need the help. Instagram, Dr. Shawn 008. There you have it.
Well, there you have it, everybody. The great Shawn Stasiak. Dr. Shawn Stasiak is alive and well and just starting on a new adventure. Follow him. This is a man that can motivate you. This is a man that has gone through the peaks and valleys of life and come out smelling like a rose, if I do say so myself. Shawn, thank you so much for joining me here today on The Brand.
Hey, Vince, I want to say one thing before I go here. And again, this is not I think you feel this through, I haven't seen you in years, by the way.
Yeah.
But, and I'm not just saying this because we're on this podcast and we're recording this or whatever for the world to see, and I mean this from my heart, man. I do have to tell you that I've always had a good feeling about you, man. I respect you, and I don't give a crap about what, you're a very polarizing figure, which I think is awesome, by the way. I really do, in the wrestling business. There's a lot of haters out there, a lot of people, but for me personally, I felt that you always treated me well. You gave me a shot with WCW. I felt that we didn't work a whole lot hand in hand in WWF at the time, but I just feel you being and learning more about your story as years went by. I saw interviews and I heard you speak, and I resonate with you because I feel your passion. I'm a very passionate, emotional guy. You're the same way. I connect with that. You're from New York. You're Italian. You grew up in the Bruno era. You respect my father. I love you, man, and I really mean that. I just think I'm inspired by what you're doing and how you're building your brand too. I know you've had some challenges, and so it's very inspiring. And so I think that's what it's about. I just want to say that to you. You've always treated me well, and I really respect you for that. Thank you.
Well, Shawn, I really, really, really do appreciate that, especially coming somebody from like you that I really do respect so much. But bro, hang around because I'm going to wrap up the show, but I want to give you a personal goodbye. So just sit tight. But there you have it, everybody. Shawn Stasiak, alive and well. Success after wrestling. Oh, my God, is there such a thing? Yes, there is, and he is the poster boy for it, and I'm really looking forward to this new brand that he's going to launch on the world. I hope you enjoyed the interview. Follow Shawn Stasiak, Facebook, Twitter. Give the guy the support. Listen, this is one of the good guys. I say that all the time. There's a lot of bad guys in wrestling, but there's also a lot of good guys. And I find myself saying this all the time. It's the good guys that are on the outside looking in. There's a reason for that. There's a reason for that, because I've stated many times, you can't be a good guy and be in the wrestling business. The two don't go together. And that's why I really do bond with the people that are on the outside looking in, because I know their hearts are too pure to be in a business that can really be ugly at times. But that's it for today's show, everybody. Make sure to join me tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. Take care, everybody.